Yours good too? Hello, hello.
Good afternoon, Facebook, Instagram, family and friends.
All right, today we're talking about renting versus owning. We're going to give you all a second to come on in so we can get started. Right, got a couple people in already. Hello, hello.
Hello, everyone.
Right, another minute or so. We'll be getting started. Again, just to remind you all, this is a open session as well. So any questions you have, feel free to hit the comment and go ahead and enter that comment or question in below. We will be doing questions live as well, talking about today owning versus renting. So if you do have any questions, feel free to let us know. We're going to answer them as soon as we get them or as soon as we can get to them. But we do like the interaction. Interaction helps it go well.
So jump on in and ask all the questions you ever wanted to know about home ownership. If renting or home ownership may be better for you, maybe a little bit about your circumstance, and maybe we can help you kind of navigate the waters of home ownership, or if renting may be the best option for you, to continue renting. So we do want to take time to speak to you guys, educate you guys, make sure that you are aware of the pros and cons of renting and home ownership.
Absolutely. All right, what time we got here?
Is it one? Yes,
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, thank you all for coming in. My name is Deontay Cannon. I am a community development lender with the Bank of Edwardsville. Been in the industry of finance for the last 10, almost 11 years now. And I have.
and I'm Ebony Bowden, STL Real Estate Guru. I have been in real estate since 2010. I started off as an investor and I went on and got my real estate license, and now I have my broker's license. And I work at Keller Williams Chesterfield on the broker panel. So I do have an array of different wealth of knowledge where if you're wanting to invest or if you're needing help with home ownership and things of that nature, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. You can inbox me or message me.
All right. So I do want to start this off by saying I am not biased towards either one. It just so happened the list come up to shake down the way that they did. Start off there. So first, we're going to start off with the pros and cons of renting. So one of the pros that I know about from renting, from having rented in the past, is that you actually have the landlord do the maintenance. So that's one of those big things because sometimes you just don't want to do it or you just don't have the money to do it. Well, that's what your rent is supposed to be paying for. It's a part of that as well to make sure that they keep up the property. So me personally, maintenance that's one of my big things. Being able to know that hey, as a renter, I'm not gonna have to pay for it, even though I'm already paying you guys a regular monthly anyway. So what are you thinking?
I think that that is a ting for me because I do like that I don't have to worry about any maintenance and things of that nature. I could just call the landlord or the property management manager, whoever handles the property, and let them know that I'm having issues and things of that nature. So that is a pro for me, and definitely something that appeals to the renters.
Yep. So that being one of the pros, another pro that I come across because I am in the mortgage industry all the time. One of the things that you can find to be a big, huge difference is the fact that you don't actually have to pay for any real estate taxes since you're actually renting. That's a big deal because that means that's more money you get to hold on to. I mean, it helps you save money if you don't have to spend it. So, real estate taxes definitely is something that's paid to either the city or the county, whichever one you're living in, especially in the St. Louis area. They definitely have them there. What do you think about real estate taxes?
I think that that's definitely another ting for me because depending on where you stay, real estate taxes can be very expensive. So if I was renting, I would not have to pay that, and that would be great for me. Like I would be happy with it.
Now we're up to two items. That's maintenance by the landlord. That's a pro, and also no real estate taxes. That's another pro. So my third pro for this is renter's insurance. To me, that's a pro because it is something extra that you have to pay for, but it's not nearly as expensive as homeowners insurance. Not
It's,
even close.
yeah.
Renter's insurance will cover all your stuff. It doesn't worry about the walls or anything like that. It literally only covers your items. Um, have you heard of anything different with renter's insurance?
No, I think renter's insurance is great. It's very, inexpensive. It covers you as being a renter. I think that is definitely a great thing to have as being a renter. I know people that don't have it, and I would tell you, I would urge you and encourage you to go out and get it. Because if anything happened, fire damage, water damage, you want to make sure that your items are covered, your personal belongings, your TVs, your clothes, your things like that.
So to go along with that too, make sure you document what you do have because that's going to be a big part of your renter's insurance. You may have up to a certain amount that they'll pay for, or if they have at least knowledge of what you do have, whether you've taken pictures of it in the past and what it looks like after damage and anything like that. That way you can make sure the stuff gets paid for. Otherwise, you're still just spending money. You're not letting it actually work for you. Um, so one of the other items I have down is less responsibility. So as a renter, you kind of have less responsibility. You don't have to worry about all the maintenance. You don't have to worry about pretty much any of the things that most people normally would who are homeowners. You don't have to worry about what's getting fixed or anything like that. So that's a big deal. Responsibility feels different when you have little to worry about. When you come home, that's better. Um,
Yeah, no lawns to mow.
yeah,
It definitely works out for you, depending on your situation. Less responsibility, it's a good thing.
yeah.
So
That's
team.
also something you pay for, but it is one of those things you kind of pay for that security in that. So another item from me personally on the pros to renting, from my experience, is that you do have some utilities paid if it's a part of that particular place that you're renting from. If it's an apartment, usually they pay for something. Usually, if it's a house, sometimes they don't pay for anything. So it could go either way. But having some of those utilities paid is another way to save money as well. Saving money is a big deal. I mean, that's all I look at every day is how can we look to save money for our future or for that rainy day that could happen tomorrow. So you never know. What do you feel about the utilities?
I feel that yes, less utilities is better. The less you pay is good as far as savings and things of that nature. So you know, I don't. I feel like when you're renting, you don't have to pay the sewer, and like things like that. You
Maybe
may
trash.
maybe trash, yeah, but things like and now they're adding the sewer. I mean, not the sewer, the trash, the water. So if you're actually renting a home, then you would have more bills than if you're renting an apartment.
So yeah, I mean that's true. I mean, even in my experience, I was able to find places to stay that only had electrical, so it was all electric places.
Ting.
But that means I didn't have water, trash, or sewer, any of those three. But on having to pay electric for everything in the apartment being electric, that's a big deal too,
It
because that
is.
means you have to kind of monitor the way you use it. So I'm a fan of unplugging stuff when I'm done with it. That's a big way to get around electricity too. Turning off lights is another way. Uh, it's just a comment out there going that personal property taxes and those bills, talking about utility bills, are the devil. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Anything that's going to take it out of your pocket, you can consider that to be the devil unless it's a real investment. That's the way I look at it too. So that's pretty fun. So one of the other things about pros and cons to renting, one of my last things actually, that you're on a short term lease, so you're not really bound to anything for no really long extended period of time. And my definition of long and extended is anything past 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So anything past five is long term to me. Usually, most leases don't go past a year or two at the longest. Sometimes they can go as short as month.
Yep.
Sometimes they can go as far as 6 months, however short you want it to be. But usually they don't go past a year or two.
And I think that's great for people that are on the go. If you know you're not going to be in this particular area, maybe you're in the military, you need to move around or whatever the case is. Papa was a Rolling Stone, I don't know. But whatever the case is, renting is great if you're not wanting to stay in a place for an extended period of time.
Right, and they do have different size places you can stay in, so you can get either like the one bedroom or the studio apartments that for people who are never there. I mean, it's
Yeah.
understandable that minimizes.
Efficiency
Yeah,
units, so You want to kind of keep the space minimal. You know, if you're moving around, maybe you travel. I don't know, maybe your job have you out traveling or whatever the case is. Sounds like good. That'd be a good job, right?
Right.
But yeah, so you know, renting would be great for you in that circumstance.
Absolutely. So that was my list on pros to renting. Do you have any other things to add to renting?
No.
All right, so that was my short list. I mean, that's what it was. I think I had 6 items on that list. Um, so looking at it now, we're going to talk about the cons. So things that I don't necessarily like about renting. Some people may feel the same way. Feel free to comment on some of these things as well. So my first con is possible slow maintenance by the landlord. So they're responsible for doing it. It's good, but when they get it done, however, they can do it pretty much when they want
Slumlord.
to. Basically, they'll get it done. Just maybe not be on your time.
Yeah, so that's definitely a kind. You know, you're at the mercy of someone else willing to get the things fixed that you're wanting to get fixed. Um, 9 times out of 10 are not going to do anything cosmetic, so it has to be something, you know, that needs to be fixed that will stop the functionality of the home. So a lot of times you don't have the leeway to make, you know, changes as you want. So,
Right.
you know, you couldn't go painting the walls all willy nilly and things like that. Like you have to get some type of notice or, you know, the okay from your landlord to go out and make any type of improvements or changes to the home.
Right. Usually cosmetic stuff, you should have them do that before you move
Yes.
in. So usually
And
they
you
won't
shouldn't
pay.
have to do that.
Right.
But unless you just absolutely want to, you're going to want to call them and make sure it's okay.
And usually you have to work twice whenever you do something cosmetic like painting. They usually want it back to the color they had it at before you move out.
Oh
So it
yeah.
means you paint it once to get it there, and then you paint it back again to get it back to the other state. Otherwise, you could be looking at something that I thought I had on this list. It's on another list. About possibly, actually, it is on this list about losing that security deposit.
Oh yeah.
So they first of all make you have a security deposit, which is one thing. That's a variable. You may or may not get it back depending on what their standard is, and it's a strong possibility
Yeah.
you won't.
I've seen non refundable
Yeah.
deposits, security deposits and things like that.
So
So
I
that's a
think
thing.
that's definitely a thing. So that's one of my things, my items on my list too, is security deposit. First of all, having one, and then second of all, possibly losing it as well. So another thing that I have down here, people don't typically think about this, but it's very possible. Having no control over when your landlord actually is in the property. It belongs to them technically.
But they're supposed to give you 24-hour notice.
They are, but in that 24 hours, time is up. They can go in when they said they would, or when that time frame hits. So
Or
unless
unless it's an emergency, if there's
right.
you know, pipe burst or something like that, and they have to act, you know, get into the property immediately, then yeah, you just that's null and void.
Yeah, because my maintenance experience has been they said they were going to be here between this time and this time. Well,
Don't you love waiting between the hours of 1 and 5?
day.
Yeah.
Between the hours of today and tomorrow. That's the time frame.
That is.
So that means they come in, they have maintenance people who have keys as well. I mean, I had to think about a lot of variables when it comes to that security wise, you know, knowing that people have keys to the place that you didn't give keys to is somebody who already had it before you got there. Not necessarily people who were renting before you, because they usually change the locks if that's the case, but talking about people who actually work there. I mean, you may not want people to pop in at any given time if that's the situation, because you, like they said, they might be here between these times. You might still be asleep between those times. It could be anything comes up with that. We don't know who's working for them either. We didn't hire them, so we don't know. It could be one of those
Very
days
true.
they make some decisions that were questionable and decided to go do some things that nobody knows about. But they have keys. That's all I know. So that's one of my big things, that control over that landlord access. Um, so my next item would be possible change in the monthly rent with the contract renewal. So when you renew your lease, it's a possibility that your payments will go up. More than likely, they will anyway. It might not go up every month that you have it unless you're on month to month, but the possibility of knowing that it's not going to be stable outside of a year's time frame, that short term that we talked about before, whatever it is, it's likely going to go up that next year. Unless you just have a really good landlord who's just letting it stay the same for whatever reason. So how do you feel about the that particular item with the contract renewal? Is the same thing you seen, or
Yeah, pretty much.
yep,
You're at the mercy of the landlord.
yet again?
They can decide, hey, I don't want to renew this lease. I'm going to kick you out. At the
Right.
end of the 12 months, you have 30 days to move. So, I mean, anything can happen. You just want to make sure that your basis is covered. You know, have that relationship with your landlord. to be able to discuss different things that you may need, or if they're moving, or whatever the case is, just so that you don't have any unforeseen events that occur. But yeah, like you just never know what can happen with not owning your own home.
Right. So one of the other things to go along with that too, I just thought of it. What if they sold the landlord actually sold the property to someone else?
I like those type of properties. Then I just collect the tenant, get the rent, collect the tenant, collect the rent.
Right. So it's saying that too at the same time for the person who's renting, it's a possibility that when your contract comes up for renewal, that it's going to be dramatically higher than what it was before.
Or you may not like that same style that you were getting previously.
Right.
You just never know. A change in ownership. They are supposed to um basically take in consideration that you already have a lease and things of that nature, but they can always make changes once that lease is up.
Right. Once that lease comes up, it's fair game. So that price might be something completely different. I was used to paying 500. Now you're paying 1,000.
Yeah,
That's the nature of the beast. That's really what it is. So you're out of control. That's what we talk about. It's trying to stay in control of your finances. That puts you out of control of your finances, and it puts you out of control of life situations. Now you got to move somewhere else or figure out a way to make that $1,000 payment if that's what it is. So,
That's true.
one of the other next items that I have here, so property restrictions. So property restrictions like number of people that you're allowed to have either temporarily or permanently staying with you. Number of people you can have in the place. I mean, usually fire codes come into place when it comes with a lot of the stuff. But in renting, sometimes they have other restrictions that are written in that says you can't have more than you staying there, more than 3 days a week.
That's true.
You may have restrictions that say you can't have more than 5 people in the place at one time, and you could lose your place if that's the case, if you get caught that way. So there are many different ways to handle that. I mean, that can become a real issue because you may have a family member in need that you have a space for it, you just can't have in there because of the rules. Because you don't want them to come in with that 24-hour notice saying tomorrow, and then your person doesn't have anywhere to be tomorrow. Like they have nowhere literally to go. So you can clearly tell when someone else is living there in addition to who was already living there. But that is another thing, possible restrictions, which those can include pet restrictions for those of us who are pet owners. You can have pet restrictions. Some of them don't allow animals at all. Some of them allow only small ones. Some of them say you can bring anybody, any pet here. So that's another, to me, that's another kind because in my house, we be able to bring whatever animal I wanted to bring in. That's just what it is. If we wanted a pet, we would get one.
You know what? Another thing, they have pet deposits.
Yep.
So
more money.
Yep.
That equals more money, which means I cannot save it and you may not get it back.
Oh no, I don't think those are refundable. I think
they just go.
take, and it's like a $200, $300, additional charge that you're paying on top of your security deposit and things like that.
And now that you mention it, I've seen the rent be higher because you have a pet. That's another reason. So they'll give you even an increased rent on top of that. So you might even have the premium apartment, and then you go get a pet to go along with it. Now, not only has your rent gone up because you have the premium one, now you have also the pet that's on there as well.
Yep.
So they have to pay for all this stuff to get it fixed in case the pet does something wrong too. So it's the way that works. So security deposit might be out the door. Pet deposit is out the door. So last thing I have under cons, which this could depend on wherever you're renting from, is the parking limitations. So you may have a parking spot, you may not. Some people reserve them. Some people just say go park on the street. So it could go either way. I mean, that depends on wherever you're staying at. To me, that's a bad thing.
Or if you stay in like an apartment complex and then they give you like one spot and then like where does your your company supposed to park and things like that. So parking is very, very important. So yeah, keep that into consideration as well. If you have two cars, only one park space, where you're gonna park that other car. Things to think about when you're renting.
All right. So
home ownership.
Yes.
My favorite.
So I was going to see. Let me do a spot check first. Anybody have anything to add about the pros and cons of renting that we haven't covered? Anything at all? All right. I don't see anyone actually typing. So, all right. Home ownership it is. Pros and cons to home ownership. I think we covered. I tried. Try to get all of that in there. So pros and cons of owning. I'm gonna let you start off on the pros to owning.
Okay, so yes, my favorite home ownership. Yay, everybody be a homeowner. So, first pro we have here is purchase property is actually an investment.
It is. That's like a point, period, exclamation point. Like that's all together. It is an investment. People don't realize it when you pay for your property, whether you pay for it in cash or you have a mortgage on it. As you make payments on your mortgage, even you begin to grow something we call equity. Equity is only usable on the actual property. It's not something somebody's going to hand you here. It's your equity. No, that's something that you actually have that you can lend against. So that's like using your house as collateral, just like your mortgage is. But it's something you can actually get money back from. You can go ahead and spend it on either um, building on the house, or you can spend it on your next business. You can spend it on really anything. I mean, you can put it down for whatever you would like to. And usually, if
You
it's
can use it to invest back into the property.
right, you can make additions to the home. If you paid that much into it already, you can make additions to the home if you want to on the inside. You can do a lot of different things with that equity. That's an actual investment. Then there's the post part of that too. If you decide to move, it's your decision at that point. Do I sell it or do I rent it out? Or do I keep it? If you can afford to keep it, hey, some people do it. Some people have multiple homes.
Airbnb.
Right. There are resources now.
Yeah.
There are plenty of resources
There
now.
there's a ton of different ways to make money out off your home.
Yep.
So, you buy a home, you're able to take that home and say, hey, I want to start a business, or I want to invest back into the home, update the kitchens and the bathrooms, things of that nature. So a home, when you purchase it, um, it is definitely an investment, and it's definitely something that you can capitalize on long term.
Absolutely. And there are plenty of things you can do with that. You can use the money from your home to buy your home, like buy your life insurance if you wanted to get a whole life policy. I've heard of people talking about this before, where you just use that money to make sure that your family's taken care of. Now it's getting in a good place. You still have a monthly payment to make when you do use that equity. That is something you have to think about. You do have a monthly payment to make. However, usually the percentage is not what it is on like a regular unsecured loan. It's similar to a mortgage usually. The interest rates are usually in the same spot or around the same spot. So think about that. It's one of your cheaper percentage wise investments that we talk about versus something like a credit card. I mean, things like that, or even unsecured loans or anything of that nature that could have those greater percentages, talking about in the eights, nines, tens, and plus, like in those teens, versus something that's somewhere between like 4 and 6%. That's a very big difference in money that you've actually spent. Um, all right. So the pro that I have here is to possibly claim that mortgage insurance on your personal tax returns or mortgage interest. I'm sorry, I said wrong word. So possibly claim the mortgage interest on your personal tax returns. That's a benefit that's still out right now. Who knows how long it's going to be there for? But I'm not a tax professional, so don't put me in that one. But I always say if you did get a mortgage and you made payments towards it, even with the prepaid interest you had from when you bought the house, if you bought it at the end of the year or whenever you bought it, that still counts. So I would always consult your tax professional to see if you can claim that as a deduction or something like that to see if you can get the benefit from having had a mortgage and having bought the house. Um, so let's see, what's the next one we have here?
So you have control over the details of the property, like um, adding a bathroom, renovations, knocking down walls, and different things like that. Whereas when you're renting, you can't go knock
Hmm,
down anyone's
don't
walls.
do that. There's security deposit plus. No, you might be in court over that.
So yes, you're definitely, if you want to go in and paint the walls black, it's your home. You can do whatever you like.
Right, you can paint all the walls black if you wanted to. You can build a studio in the basement, upstairs, wherever you want to build it at.
Yes,
You can do all of those things. People, I mean, you can make your home into whatever you wanted to. That's one of my favorite things about home ownership. You can literally create from nothing. You can have a skeleton before
that's
you
true.
started and build this whole thing that's dynamic to where you want to live your life. You can make it whatever you want to. Like she said, whatever colors on the walls, you can make it all of those things. My household, we probably would need large closets. That's just the way it works. So if we have one that we have bought that has small closets, we probably gonna look at how can we make bigger closet space. That's a pro because I can do that. We can find out who's gonna help me do it or who I'm gonna pay to do it. I don't do it personally, but it can get done. If you're renting, you're not gonna have that same situation where you do that. If you're in the house, if they let you do that, they'll likely be benefiting from you in the long run anyway, unless you
Yeah,
actually
it
buy
wouldn't
the
be a
house
good
from them.
idea. Right, that wouldn't be a good idea.
That would not. That would not be the best situation. I don't recommend changing something on someone else's property until you actually own it. That's something I've even said throughout the actual mortgage process. Don't change anything unless you own it. So I do believe that adding that, being able to add whatever you want to is a big part of that. Um, so my next item is something I talked about before. No external access allowed unless you give them permission. So if you don't give anyone permission or give them keys or give them combinations to whatever it is lock wise to your house, they're not supposed to be in there usually unless you let them in somehow or another. Um,
Which you're allowed to have as many people as you like stay. Well, I mean, not really, because you still like have a city hall and they have like an occupancy permit when
right,
they say you can't have so many people. But for the most case, like if you're having family from out of town and guests and things of that nature, they don't have to go stay at a hotel. They can come stay with you.
short term, yeah,
Yep. And so that's definitely, it's worthwhile to have your own space. You have an additional bedroom for your mom or whomever's visiting.
yep. So yeah, that's the big deal to be able to have people come in when they need to. You might not want to keep them there for long, depending
Yeah.
on how much you like them, but they'll be there. I mean, you have the space to at least allow someone to come visit you, without having to worry about where how we're gonna do this, how we're gonna do that. Well, I have the space, I can let you come stay here, even if you sleep on the couch. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It's less than paying for a hotel room, that's for sure. Plus, we have all the access to what we want in our house. So um, another item to go along with that, I put down no pet restrictions. Usually, unless there is a homeowner or condo association that says differently. So there might be some small restrictions with home ownership and condo associations that might say, well, you can't have these pets. Um, so that might be one thing. That may very well be one thing that'll be a small restriction, but it may not. Most places I've been to, they don't really have pet restrictions. You can have as many pets in your house as you want to. I've seen things on TV that I wonder why they had so many pets, but that's because they wanted to, and no one stopped them. So that is one of those things you can do whatever you would like with that. What's your next one?
So the next one is build equity in the home, which is very, very important, because that's money you can use. You can pull it out, as we said before, to make renovations to the home, to start a business, to invest into other properties and
Right.
things of that nature. So you're investing into a future when you buy a home, and you don't really realize it till you get into it. But this is a great way to be able to fund something else.
Absolutely. So I mean that actually goes for my next point too, of being able to rent your home out if you decide to move or sell it. I mean that mainly was an investment at that point. You're making money off of it at some point there, unless you're upside down on your mortgage. That's the only way you're really not making anything from the transaction if your property value has raised. So if you've done some good to your property to make it have a even higher value than when you bought it, then now you're looking at being able to sell it for more than what you paid for it, or being able to rent it out. I mean, think about common math. If I'm paying on my house right now a $600 mortgage payment, and I rent the same house out for even $900 a month, and you make them pay things like utilities and things like that, and you might pick up, like we talked about before, like the water, trash, and sewer, just to make sure it keeps running,
Mm-hmm.
because that's still in your name either way it goes. Then you're talking about having gotten all of that for just letting somebody rent the place, and you just do the maintenance on it. Usually, if you keep it in good working shape anyway, maintenance shouldn't be an issue. You have the opportunity to tell people you have a security deposit versus having to pay one.
This is true.
So it's a lot of investment wise that goes on with when it comes to like renting out your actual property that you used to stay in. You could do that. As long as you continue to pay your mortgage, if you have one, that usually doesn't have an issue. Keep
Yeah.
your insurance, you're usually okay. So, any questions about that right now? Talking about renting out your home if you actually do purchase one or selling it, because anything you have left after your mortgage and whatever closing costs, you usually get to take that home when you sell your actual property. So that's money that you made. You usually get a lot back, especially if you don't sell it for too cheap. So, all right, what's your next point you have there for pros?
So, you can. So we talked about you can sell it, you can rent it out. It looks like also monthly payment usually has less than renting of the same property. So I've seen this in several cases where someone's currently paying $1,000 in rent. They could possibly own like $100,000 home,
Yeah,
um, but they don't know that because they haven't done the research, or they just don't know. So I actually did an exercise on Facebook where you put in how much you're currently paying for it, and I'll show you the type of house that you could purchase. And people were like amazed at the type of home that they could actually afford. And if you didn't want to, 9 times out of 10, the home that you're looking for, you didn't have to spend that, you know, additional 125,000. You could probably find you something comparable to where you stand for way less.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I see it and I've done it 100 times. People wonder, well, I'm already paying $1,000 in rent. I think I've been really good this year, actually, about helping people with coming in less than their rent with a decent amount for their actual purchase price for the house. Especially if you've managed to save money over that time to help with down payment and things like that. We usually are able to figure it out, and it usually comes out being better than what you were currently doing, and you get to control it. It's under your complete control. Um, so along with that, one of the things that people tend to worry about is actually the maintenance in the house. One have Ebony talk about a little bit here is about the home warranty process.
Yes, because that's like the major concern. People like, I don't want to buy a house because I don't want to fix anything in it. And so I have a solution for that situation. Um, a home warranty. And what that does is it'll cover like your stove, your refrigerator, your furnace, your air conditioning unit. It'll cover things in your home that would, malfunction or break, and they will come out. You'll pay like $50, $75 for someone to come out and service it. And what happens is they'll fix it, and if they can't fix it, they'll replace it. So a home warranty is very good to have, especially for new homeowners that are worried about additional costs to keep your home together. So that is definitely something you can do. And I'm saying like it's very inexpensive. It's like $300, $400 a year for like a basic home warranty package.
That's awesome to be able to know that you can actually have help with that as you have insurance for it. Basically, it's basically an insurance to
It
help cover
is.
the things that you have on the inside that could possibly break. I know furnace breaking, especially in this time of year, is a bad thing, especially with water heaters as well and pipes bursting. All those things are all a part of this time of the year that we're in, especially with it being here in St. Louis around 8 degrees today. Who knows what the wind chill is, but it's 8 degrees.
Yeah, so you got to protect your investment.
Absolutely.
You got to make sure you insure your investment, because basically, if you don't, if something happens, then you're gonna have to pay out for it. So definitely homeowners insurance, definitely a home warranty. Those will both save you if anything was to happen. And things happen.
Yeah. So that was our nice, lengthy list of the actual pros. And I kid you not, I was not biased when we created this. We were not biased at all. It just so happened that was the longest one of all of them.
Although I am for home
And I am too. I
ownership.
would prefer people own homes versus renting because it just comes out better in the long run as far as cost goes. And in addition to talking about just regular homes, we forget to mention condos as well. So if one of those things you're talking about is like outside maintenance in the grass and all those things, well, condo associations usually take care of that stuff because you're in a condo.
Yeah.
It's similar to an apartment, but you actually own it. I mean, you actually grow equity in it as well, so you actually have money that you could potentially do.
Without the maintenance and upkeep of the outside. So you don't have to worry about mowing the grass or shoveling the snow, or if the roof leaks. It's something that they will cover. They usually cover the outside exterior
Right.
of the property,
And
and you will,
structural stuff. Yeah.
yep, and you will cover, within your four walls or however big your apartment space is.
And that's where the homeowner's walls in insurance comes in. At. So that's another insurance similar to regular homeowners insurance, but it covers all your stuff and everything on the inside. So that's usually not as expensive as regular homeowners insurance, by the way. But it's I don't believe it's as cheap as renters insurance either, though. So it's in the middle. It's literally in the middle.
That's true.
So that's why those monthly payments on those mortgages don't seem to be very much either. Because I mean, in the St. Louis area in Florissant, you could find one for a fairly decent price, knowing that your total amount once you do your escrow account, which we've talked about that before. See one of the past videos. It'll explain escrow account. But once you put all those things together to have your total monthly payment, it's usually not even what you were paying in rent for something that was likely smaller. So that's another way of looking at it. So now we're going to go to the cons. One of the cons I actually might have just mentioned to this one. This is the very first one I had was you get to do all maintenance. Everything's you. So you either do it or you hire someone to do it. It's going to cost you the money, or you're going to have the home warranty pay for it, one way or another.
I would say YouTube is a homeowner's best friend
Yep.
because you can learn how to do it. It'll save you money, maybe not time, but it'll definitely save you a few bucks if you can learn how to do a few things yourself.
The University of YouTube teaches you a lot of things. But definitely, that's still one of those things you're still paying for it though. It's all you. That's one of those things to consider when you do go into home ownership or you're thinking about home ownership. Um, Next thing I have is the purchase of homeowners insurance, which is more than the renter's insurance, but it's usually added into your escrow account. And we just covered this. So, homeowners insurance is probably the more expensive of the three different ones that we've talked about. Homeowners insurance, if you have a mortgage, is usually required unless you put down a certain percentage, which I believe we've covered that before too. Um, Other than that, it does cover, like if you have an actual house, it does cover pretty much everything you allow it to. So if you pay for the insurances, like flood insurance to go with it, or
They have riot insurance.
wow, didn't know that
Yep.
one. Got to look into that one. That's pretty interesting. They have fire insurance. I'm pretty sure fire hazard protection, tornado insurance. I think it's
Everything.
one
They
of
have
them.
insurance for everything.
What's the other one I always forget about? Earthquake insurance. Yeah,
Oh
people will talk
yeah.
to you about that too.
That's
If
yeah.
you feel it's necessary, get it. Whatever it may be, get it and work it
And
in.
some of the additional whistles and bells are covered. Like you can get like a package and it'll have
Yeah,
all that included.
usually. And the commercials that's out now about combining home and auto, I don't think they mean it literally, but that's the way that it works too. So you could find a way to combine those two to get a discount on it as well, if that's what you were looking to do. All right. So my next one is required to pay real estate taxes. So you are required to pay real estate taxes because you own it. I haven't seen sales tax on it. It's just real estate taxes at this point. So
Which
usually
that's every year.
it is every year. It is every year. If you have an escrow account, which I did put that, it's usually added into your escrow account. You might not even be paying attention to it until you actually pay the house off, and you're required to just pay it out of pocket at that point in time. So it does take it from being more of a monthly debt. And I know in St. Louis County we can do a quarterly payment if you wanted to. They could set that arrangement up, but
Yeah. And
it's tough.
check with your real estate agent.
Yep.
They'll be able to let you know what the taxes are on the property before you can purchase it. So make sure you are aware of any, um, because some depending on the area, some taxes are higher than other places. So just make sure you're aware.
That's absolutely true. I found in certain parts of the city it's a lot cheaper than it is to come to the county. So
Yeah, North City, $200. North County,
$2,000.
$2,000.
And a zero. That's kind of how it works out. I mean, that's one of those things. I recommend the exact same thing for when we actually go through the mortgage process. I always tell you to look at and have your realtor look at potentially what the taxes are going to be on the place because that could make or break whether you're going to purchase the house too. We definitely add that into your debt ratio, um, which we've covered debt ratio before too. That's in one of our previous videos. It might be coming back around pretty soon
Oh
though.
yeah.
Um, but absolutely, we cover debt ratio. That's one of those big things. I like to look at debt ratios to see how you're going to make it from day to day, as well as if you can actually afford the loan that we're doing too. Um, do you want to talk about the next couple here?
Yeah, sure. So, let's go into mortgage insurance. So you have possibility of having that. If you have a mortgage, you also have the possibility of having homeowner and condo association fees or dues, which that is for them upkeeping the property outside your condo. You would have to pay those fees. Usually, they could be anywhere from like 50, 80 to 100, 250, 300, depending on where you're living. Also, you'll pay all your utilities. So there's no one that's going to help you with utilities. You're going to have to pay all your electric and gas and things of that nature. And then the additional utilities you would pay if you're a renter coming over to home ownership, you would have a trash bill, a water bill, a sewer bill,
Yeah, all those bills,
all those bills.
bills on bills on bills on bills.
Yeah,
That's basically how it
but
works.
it's an investment.
It is.
So I'll just keep saying that. And it's independence, so you have that independence as well. Also you will have a 15 to 30-year mortgage. Depending on that's just usually how it is, unless you do something that's not traditional. Like myself, with investment property. I don't have a mortgage. I actually own my property outright. But that's just to me time to do.
Right.
But yeah, so you're when you have a mortgage, then expect to have that mortgage for 30 years unless you have a plan to pay it off sooner or you win the lottery or something like that, and you'll be able to go ahead and make that payment and get it, done and over with.
Yeah. So yeah, standard wise, that's usually one of the things that people would call a con. It's considered a long term debt. To me, it's not necessarily a con. It could go on both sides. The fact that you could have it for so long is a con, but the fact that it actually helps your credit for having it for so long, it's a pro. So it goes on both sides. Honestly, I just look at it in the way other people look at it when we came up with this. So having a 30-year debt, up to a 30-year debt, that's a big deal. You could have it as a 7-year debt. You could have it as a 10-year debt. You could have it as a 15-year debt, or 20, or 25. But those are everything in between. Usually we put it on 30 years just so you can have the least amount of payment as possible. I mean, who's to say that you can't pay it off early? Which planning for the future is one of those big things. You have to be able to plan for how am I going to pay this in the future, especially if you're talking about things like retirement. Retirement, you usually want to do whatever you can, especially when you're a homeowner, before you retire. So you want to go through and see if you can refinance your debt. You want to go through and see if you can get some of the equity back off of your property, because once you change your income, it changes everything as far as financing for basically everything that you're going to do. So, um, mortgage insurance, we like to try to get you to not have mortgage insurance if possible, although it's more than likely going to be happening for most people because of what amount they put down or which program they're using. Mortgage insurance is something that you don't get credit for. I'll say that every time. You don't get any credit for it. It just protects the investor. So if Ebony is the person who invested in the loan and we use her program, then Ebony's the person who that insurance is covering, because we want to make sure it's covered up to a certain amount of time to make sure that she's okay for having given us the money for it. That's how it works. Um, Other than that, like she talked about condos and homeowner association dues, they can charge pretty much what they charge. Sometimes it's monthly, sometimes it's annually. We take all that into consideration. But otherwise, I think that was my short list as well. Do you have any other cons to home ownership that you can come up with? Anything you can think of?
No.
So, according to the length of the list, it looks like the pros for owning a home became the longest list out of everything, and that was not on purpose. I kid you not. Even
Home
though
ownership wins again.
home ownership keeps winning, we have our downsides, we have our upsides, but it looks like there are more upsides to downsides. So,
Sounds good.
anybody have any questions about renting versus owning? Any pros, cons on either side? Anything you want to add? Anything like that? We will read it out loud if you do type it. So,
Yes. Ask us some questions. Hey, Danielle. Hello, Natasha. Questions, questions. I feel like we covered everything. Like, is there anything that you guys think that we didn't cover, or is there a pro or con that you know of that we didn't cover? No.
all
Okay.
right. And for the next time we do this, which will be likely, this is March, right? Looking at
Oh yes.
April,
Time is just
probably the
flying.
first week of April. We're looking for a topic. So see if anybody can help us out with a topic for the next one.
That's a good
Otherwise,
idea.
we're gonna come up with another one, and you guys will be here for that one too. We try to pick the things that mean the most to you all. So I mean, if you want to go over something that we've already covered in the past, we can go back. If somebody says, "Hey, I want to talk about credit again," well, that'll be our next class. If no one else says anything different, we take it on votes. So
Yep.
I will put a post out about the actual votes on what we're talking about
Votes,
next.
suggestions.
Suggestions, yeah, all those things. We take everything into consideration. So,
Yeah, because this is really for you guys. We want to make sure that you have all the information that you need. And this is Money Mondays. So, anything that you want to talk about in referencing your finance, budgeting, buying, spending, anything like that, we will be happy to cover the topic and answer any questions that you guys have.
all right. So I do have my information on the actual posts for Facebook. So it is my phone number, my office number, and my email address. So if you do have any other questions or anything like that, you can also inbox me as well. I'm open to all those things too. Um, and Ebony, you want to share again?
Yes, you can follow me at STL Real Estate Guru. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I have a Facebook business page. You can also follow me at Ebony Bowden or Ebony Queen Carlisa Bowden. You can inbox me, message me, text me, call me 314-795-5735. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have about home ownership, commercial property, investment property, and things of that nature. So I'm so happy that you guys tuned in with us this afternoon, and look forward to our other topics that we'll be having, and make sure that you tag and share and be interactive and ask questions and things of that nature. We'll be happy to answer them.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for coming. We'll see you all next time.
Bye.